The Godzilla movie spin-off has finally made a powerful debut. The world of titans and monsters has made a stunning appearance. This film not only features the monster King Godzilla, but also mysterious monsters that have never appeared before, which will appear one by one in the film. Due to the intricate storyline, make sure not to miss any details. Let's dive deep into this extraordinary world of giants. In 1973, the US government began its first military exploration of Skull Island. This marked the beginning of the famous Monarch Project. At that time, soldiers had just landed on Skull Island when they were violently attacked by a titan, with no one surviving. Later, it was revealed that this giant was a young Kong. Meanwhile, Dr. Randa recorded his final words about the Monarch Project with his portable camera. He mentioned that if he were to perish, he would leave behind detailed information about the Titan events. However, he had not revealed the location where the information was hidden. Dr. Randa seemed to have seen something terrifying and took off running. He thought he could escape by running out of the woods, but unexpectedly, a giant spider appeared before him. This put him in a dire situation once again. To avoid losing the results of his life's work, Dr. Randa tossed the backpack containing the data into the sea. Just as he resigned himself to his fate, a massive rock crab appeared and began battling the giant spider. Clearly, the giant spider had crossed a boundary. As the two monsters fought, Dr. Randa prepared to sneak away and avoid the giant monster's feet that might fall on him. In the end, both monsters fell into the sea and their fates were unknown. Although Dr. Randa saved his own life, he could only watch the data float farther away. In 2013, a fishing boat in a certain sea area of Tokyo accidentally salvaged the backpack Dr. Randa had thrown away in 1973, but the fishermen didn't know what it was and casually tossed it aside. They had no idea that this action would lay hidden dangers for countless titans to land in the human world in the future. In 2015, it had been a year since Godzilla landed in San Francisco. A woman named Kate traveled alone from San Francisco to Tokyo, Japan, to search for her missing father, Hunter. Following the clues, her father was a top scientist studying titan monsters, but when she found her father's residence, she saw a photo of her father on the table. Inside, there was a strange couple. After talking, Kate learned that her father had already had a family in Tokyo before meeting her mother in San Francisco. The man in the blue shirt before her was Kate's half-brother, named Kenta. This cruel truth hit Kate like a blow. It felt like a huge stone pressing on her heart. She couldn't accept this harsh reality. The only thing she could do was leave this place, but as soon as she stepped outside, she heard a piercing alarm. Before Kate could figure out what was happening, she was knocked to the ground by the fleeing crowd. Fortunately, Kenta appeared just in time to pull her into an underground shelter. Kenta told Kate that to prevent a repeat of Godzilla's landing disaster, every neighborhood had underground emergency shelters built. The alarm meant that Godzilla was attacking again. When she heard the name Godzilla, Kate's thoughts instantly went back to San Francisco a year ago. At that time, she was just an elementary school teacher and encountered Godzilla on her way to school with her students. Its massive body had scales like steel. The reinforced concrete bridge that humans had built over decades collapsed with just a slight touch from it. Perhaps it was angered by the military's attacks at that time. And Godzilla, which had calmed down, launched another assault. Kate witnessed the entire process of the school bus falling. She resigned from her job because that past was too hard for Kate to bear. She disregarded the danger and attempted to rush out of the shelter. Luckily, she was stopped by Kenta's mother. After the alarm ended, everyone returned to the surface. As Kate was about to leave, Kenta suggested they could have tea together sometime. He was also filled with questions about their father's disappearance. Instead of fighting alone, they should seek the truth together. Moreover, he had the key to their father's office. Kate also knew that without help from others, she would be unable to unravel this mystery on her own. So Kate agreed to Kenta. Soon they arrived at their father's office to search for clues. At the same time, they began to question their father's identity. According to Kate, after Godzilla attacked San Francisco, her father left her and her mother to follow a mysterious person on a private plane, never to be seen again. Although the relevant authorities eventually determined that the plane had crashed, with no survivors on board. However, Kate didn't believe this conclusion. She speculated through some clues that her father must have another identity. This was certainly not just a simple aviation accident. Perhaps her father was continuing to research Titan monsters somewhere. It turned out that Kate's speculation wasn't unfounded. Behind the world map in the office, they discovered a safe embedded in the wall. Kate successfully opened it using their family's birthdays. She found that there were no confidential documents inside. there was only an ordinary package. At this moment, the documents and old videotapes that spilled out caught Kate's attention. Looking at the pattern on the package, Kate recalled seeing a group of mysterious individuals wearing the same pattern on the Cross-Sea Bridge a year ago. However, this package was exactly what Dr. Randa threw into the sea, and somehow ended up in Kate's father's hands. To gather more clues, Kenta brought in his friend, Nisa. She was a highly talented hacker, and also a collector of antique record players and videotapes. With Nisa's help, the contents of the videotape were quickly decrypted. Just as they were about to check it, the Monarch headquarters in the United States received an alarm simultaneously. Clearly, the videotape had been implanted with Monarch's identification code. The organization quickly activated satellite positioning to lock onto their locations. At this moment, Kate and the others were frowning as they watched the contents of the videotape. The tape recorded various Titan monsters, each capable of easily destroying modern civilization. It even recorded the specific locations of the monsters. What surprised Kate even more was that she saw her grandmother, Miura Keiko, in one of the photos. According to her father, her grandmother had perished during an exploration mission when she was very young. That was in the Philippines in 1952. Young Keiko had already gained some fame in the field of physics. She was employed by the U.S. military, investigating mysterious radioactive elements. Under the protection of Soldier Shaw, they encountered the young Dr. Randa. He spoke of something beyond scientific understanding. The residents at the foot of the mountain had seen a giant dragon soar into the sky, leaving a massive trail of fire in the air. Randa suspected that the trail of fire was the radioactive element they were searching for. After hearing this rumor, Shaw and Keiko had a disagreement. Keiko thought that Randa made some valid points, while Shaw believed it was anti-scientific and absurd. Shaw stated that he would return to base to report the matter and bring in others to continue the mission. As Shaw left, Keiko followed the route provided by Randa. They continued to venture deeper into the primordial forest. Meanwhile, Shaw, on his way back, noticed a spike in radiation nearby. He stopped the car and looked at the sky, shocked to discover that it seemed similar to the trail of fire in the rumors. This made him start to believe that the rumors might be true. So Shaw hurried back to look for Keiko and Randa. Keiko and Randa crossed through the woods and saw a rusted warship parked in a hollow valley. Randa recognized it as the Lawton, which sank in 1943. It sank into the Pacific Ocean after being attacked by an unknown creature. He claimed to have served on this warship and was the sole survivor of the monster attack, but the ship sank too quickly, and he didn't get a good look at the mysterious underwater beast. This was why he came here. He wanted to expose the existence of the Titan monsters. Keiko expressed serious doubts about this. After all, the Pacific Ocean is 8,000 kilometers away from here. How could such a large ship possibly appear here? Although Randa didn't know either. The most important thing was to enter the ship and investigate. The two found that the bottom of the ship's cabin was filled with the smell of decay. Randa seemed to walk straight into a room with purpose. Following closely, Keiko indeed found a wooden box with Randa's name on it. At this moment, she had to believe what Randa had said earlier. So the two continued deeper into the ship. What they saw next left them dumbfounded. They saw corpses fixed to the walls. Keiko deduced that these corpses were likely crew members who had died 9 years ago. Seeing this scene, the two realized they shouldn't stay long. Just as they were about to turn to leave, a terrifying roar echoed from the other end of the ship. There was no time to think about what kind of monster it was. The two hurried towards the exit, only to find that a patch of mucus from some kind of creature had appeared in the passage they had just walked through. At some unknown time, for safety's sake, they had to find another way out. But just a few steps later, the cabin suddenly shook. Then a sharp claw pierced through the steel plating. Randa accidentally got trapped under an iron ladder. Keiko struggled but couldn't free him. Fortunately, at a critical moment, Shaw arrived just in time. The two of them worked together to rescue Randa. The three of them finally escaped through the gap, but then the entire ship completely capsized. The three still wore tense expressions. Such a huge monster overturned the trio's understanding. As they continued their exploration, even more mysterious Titan creatures began to surface. Thus, the official Monarch project was born. 2 years had passed since the trio first encountered a Titan creature. They were rewarded for their contributions in discovering Titan creatures. Shaw was promoted from lieutenant to the chief commander of the Monarch project to obtain more authority and funding to investigate the Titan creatures. The three decided to invite the highest-ranking U.S. military commander, Mike, to participate in an experiment. Upon entering the warehouse, a massive footprint came into view. Mike could hardly believe it. Such a huge footprint of an animal had never been discovered before. Shaw explained that this footprint was found 3 weeks ago, in a tropical rainforest in Indonesia. Although they didn't know who the owner of the footprint was, they could be sure that once it appeared, it would be a major disaster for human society. Seeing that the intimidation had worked, they revealed their plan, and planned to lure out the Titan monster. Keiko invited General Mike to ask the military for 69 kilograms of uranium, but to obtain enough materials to create an atomic bomb, based on just a footprint, was no easy task. Mike stated that such a large quantity of uranium wouldn't be easily approved by the president. They saw General Mike waver, and released the 2-year investigation report in one go. It turned out that these giant monsters absorbed the energy and radiation emitted by nuclear weapons. If a solution wasn't found, the monsters would eventually destroy humanity. Only by luring them out could they find a way to coexist peacefully. The general ultimately agreed to their request. However, the military provided a small hydrogen bomb instead. This was far more powerful than a nuclear bomb. It turned out they not only wanted to lure out the giant beast, but also to eliminate it in one go. Shaw approached the general to inquire about the reason. The general's words left Shaw unable to refute.
Monster or no monster, that thing, that's not going back to Los Alamos in a crate.
Keiko and the others knew they were powerless to change anything in the face of national decisions. Once everything was ready, everyone relocated to an island far enough away. The general also invited many political heavyweights and military officials. Everyone was astonished by this. Keiko believed that such a rare creature shouldn't be killed, but the general had already issued the detonation order, and it was too late for her to stop it. Next, without any surprises, the imposing juvenile Godzilla made its appearance. After this incident, the military believed they had killed the monster. As time went on, the Monarch headquarters focused on researching ancient giants. However, due to a lack of funding, the founders Shaw and Keiko had to personally seek out investors. However, since the discovery of Godzilla, the organization had no new findings. The fundraising plan failed again. However, this did lead to some progress in their relationship. They were in a state of being more than friends, but not quite lovers. At this moment, Professor Randa, who was deeply focused on his research, received news that a scientist in Japan had detected a signal suggesting the presence of a Titan monster. The three carefully compared the data. The radiation levels were very similar to those when Godzilla had appeared. Keiko immediately decided to go to Japan to investigate. Shaw stayed behind to prepare the funding. Keiko and Randa set off right away. After the two arrived in Japan, they found the scientist who had provided the clues. However, a huge metal sphere caught their attention. The Japanese scientist explained that a few days ago, an unidentified object in the lake had emitted gamma radiation, so they created a gamma radiation simulator. The greater the radiation released by the machine, the more radiation the unidentified object would emit in response. Randa believed his method had groundbreaking significance, equating to a starting point for communication between humans and Titan monsters. Far away at headquarters, Shaw learned that they planned to lure out the monster. He couldn't help but worry about Keiko's safety, so he abandoned his sponsorship speech to the military and rushed to Japan. Keiko was upset with Shaw's impulsiveness and left. Then Shaw expressed his feelings for Keiko, but Keiko believed that the Monarch Project's mission was more important than personal feelings. Their love for each other could interfere with their research. At this moment, the sound of the gamma radiation simulator at the lake disappeared. The instrument was swatted away by a tail. They were shocked to discover that the mysterious giant creature at the bottom of the lake was Godzilla. It turned out that it had not been destroyed by the hydrogen bomb. In 2015, the three cracked the contents of the hard drive. However, Kate's father's whereabouts remained mysterious. Kenta was determined to find out the cause of his father's death. He returned to his father's office once again. While searching, he discovered a locked filing cabinet. With the key in his hand, Kenta opened the cabinet lock and found a folder from the Monarch organization. Kenta instinctively opened it to check. The first page contained Shaw's identification information. He was shocked to find that Shaw was alive and living in a nursing home in Tokyo. Additionally, he discovered an old reel of film. Meanwhile, Kate didn't find any clues about her father's disappearance and planned to return to San Francisco first. Just as she arrived at the airport, a bearded man approached her. He demanded she hand over the files on the hard drive. Kate was taken aback. The man hurriedly explained that his name was Tim and he was a member of Monarch. He had monitored the hard drive's activity in San Francisco. That night, he rushed to Tokyo. Kate pretended to cooperate, and then took the opportunity to make a phone call to escape. Unexpectedly, Tim had accomplices, and she was forcibly shoved into a car, as a black bag was placed over her head. Kate recalled the terrifying experience from that day. She became emotionally agitated and struggled fiercely. The driver was disturbed and the car crashed into the guardrail and flew out. Fortunately, Kate wasn't seriously hurt. She crawled out of the car and fled the scene. Once free, she rushed to the police station for help. She claimed that a foreigner was trying to kidnap her. When the police asked her to show identification, Kate realized that she had lost her backpack during the chase. The police looked at her with suspicion. Kate began to think that they didn't seem trustworthy. Then, without saying a word, she hurriedly left the police station. The only place she could think to go was Nisa's house. As soon as she reached the door, Nisa pulled her into a corner. It turned out that Monarch members were monitoring her. Due to the documents, they quickly located Nisa's house, but couldn't find the information they were looking for. They turned to Kenta again. Upon meeting, they demanded Kenta return the documents. Otherwise, they threatened to eliminate everyone who knew about the incident. Perhaps realizing the danger, Kenta's mother pretended to persuade her son to hand over the items. Then she handed him a photo. With her eyes, she signaled Kenta to seize the opportunity and run. Under his mother's cover, Kenta pretended to go inside for the documents, but actually jumped out the window to escape. The Monarch members were blocked by Kenta's mother outside. By the time they reacted, Kenta was already long gone. He successfully met up with Kate and Nisa on the street. The photo was of a young Shaw. After some discussion, they decided to take Randa's leftover documents to find Shaw. After some inquiries, they successfully found Shaw. After Kenta revealed his identity, Shaw was also taken aback. He never expected to encounter an old acquaintance in his lifetime. When Kenta tried to mention the documents, Shaw interrupted them and took the three outside. It turned out that Shaw had been monitored by Monarch for many years. Once outside, Kenta recounted his experiences over the past few days. Unfortunately, Shaw was unaware of his father's disappearance. At this moment, Nisa noticed a hidden camera among the nearby greenery. She couldn't help but ask what kind of place this was. Shaw explained that this nursing home was operated by Monarch. Everyone became alert and prepared to leave. However, Shaw casually cut off the tracker on his ankle and expressed his desire to join them for one last adventure. Before the 60-second warning countdown ended, Shaw quickly led them to Kenta's car. Before the Monarch personnel arrived, he helped them escape the nursing home. After successfully evading their pursuers, Shaw warned the three young people that if they decided to search for the truth behind Hunter's disappearance, they must be prepared to subvert their cognition, because Hunter had already joined Monarch. Before Kate lost contact with her father, the last known location of the plane Hunter boarded was in a snowy mountain in Alaska, USA. To uncover the truth about Hunter's disappearance, they needed to go to that mountain. However, Monarch had closely monitored all airport entrances in search of Dr. Randa's confidential documents. Shaw took them on a cargo ship to travel by sea. On the cargo ship during the voyage, Shaw looked at the photo of Keiko and Dr. Randa and couldn't help but reminisce about their wonderful adventures together. It was 1959. The three traveled to a suburb in Kazakhstan. It was said that many animals here had suffered from severe nuclear radiation. Their goal was to investigate. As they got closer to their destination, the radiation levels shown on the detector continued to rise. Keiko and the others were well prepared. They put on gas masks and ventured inside. After walking a short distance, they encountered a local villager hunting. Keiko warned the villager that eating the infected animals could make him sick. The villager claimed that the radiation was a rumor from outside. What was truly terrifying was the government's actions. That was the creation of a massive hole leading straight to hell. Keiko understood very well that the villager was referring to a nuclear test conducted years ago. Shortly after, the three arrived at an abandoned factory. To their astonishment, the nuclear radiation here had completely vanished. They removed their protective gear and entered the factory. Shaw expressed with confusion that the nuclear radiation seemed to have been absorbed by something. Meanwhile, Keiko and Randa were planting explosives around. This was a common method for them to investigate the underground structure. After a loud explosion, the sonar detector indicated several cavities deep beneath the surface. There were also slight fluctuations. It was likely that there were living organisms inside. As soon as they finished speaking, the ground began to shake violently. Following the instrument's readings, they quickly found a concealed chamber. The sunlight shines into the gap created by the explosion, revealing a chamber filled with glimmering embryos. Randa confirmed that these organisms had never appeared on Earth before, so he planned to take some samples and bring them back to the research institute. Shaw quickly warned that going down carelessly could cost them their lives. Just as the two were arguing, Keiko had already prepared the rope. Then the two descended to the bottom using the rope. They saw a truly horrifying scene. Inside the embryos, they could faintly see something wriggling. It looked like a magnified version of an insect. Keiko bravely prepared to step forward and take a sample. At this moment, the ground suddenly shook violently. Randa urged Keiko to hurry and leave. Even more terrifying was that the larvae broke through their membranes and charged at them. Keiko was unfortunately bitten on the calf by a bug. She struggled desperately but couldn't break free. Ultimately, she fell into the abyss, her fate unknown. After this incident, human scientists boldly proposed the theory of a hollow Earth. This theory completely explained all the mysteries of the giant beasts. At this time, at the Monarch testing facility in Kansas, the first human exploration of the hollow Earth was about to commence. Due to Keiko being accidentally dragged into the abyss by Creature last time, her son Hunter was sent to a foster family. Before parting, Shaw gave him a knife and told him to keep it safe until he returned from the hollow Earth. This plan was fraught with danger. Professor Randa had advised against Shaw going personally. However, whether it was because he couldn't save Keiko or for other reasons, Shaw insisted on carrying out the mission. This reconnaissance mission to the hollow Earth was dubbed the Hourglass Project. If successful, it would redefine the Earth. If the US didn't reach it first, the Soviet Union would take the lead. The way to enter the hollow Earth was by using the gamma simulator developed by Dr. Suzuki. Due to the instability of the tunnel, they could only rely on attracting Titan monsters to lead them down. After the gamma simulator was activated, a mysterious giant beast was lured. As the beast passed through the tunnel to stabilize it, Shaw and the others' gamma simulator was thrown into it. However, an accident occurred. Energy erupted within the tunnel, creating a tornado. Everything near the entrance was destroyed. When everything settled, the tunnel had vanished. This disaster resulted in many casualties. Due to the inability to determine the cause, the Department of Defense had decided not to provide funding for the Monarch project. As Shaw recalled all this, the group had arrived at a port in South Korea by water. According to Shaw's description, traveling from here to the US was the safest option. Moreover, there was an old friend here who might be able to help. However, as soon as they disembarked, they were apprehended as suspicious individuals. Shaw intended to argue, but one of them punched him down. It turned out that this person was Do Hao, the friend Shaw had mentioned. With Do Hao's help, the group successfully found a private plane. Meanwhile, a luxurious private jet was parked at a mansion in Tokyo. The person on board was Daisy, a core executive of the Monarch organization. Tim personally stepped forward to greet her. However, he was met with a cold glare from Daisy. She realized that after Tim discovered the hard drive's contents, he didn't report it immediately. Instead, he took matters into his own hands and lost the people he was tracking. At this moment, Tim's assistant Sulin received a phone call. She claimed that Customs had detected Shaw and the others through facial recognition. Immediately, Daisy ordered armed guards to go after them. Meanwhile, Shaw and the others were already on a plane, heading to Alaska, USA. This was the last location where Hunter had been before his disappearance. Before long, they successfully arrived at their destination. After getting off the plane, they quickly discovered a wreckage of an aircraft. It was the very plane Hunter had been on years ago. They entered the cockpit to check it out. To their dismay, they found only the pilot's corpse. All the passengers on board had vanished. So, they began searching the area nearby and successfully found a tent situated at the foot of a mountain. This sparked hope among the group. However, upon entering, they found it completely empty. From the handwriting on the map, it was clear that Kate's father was still alive. They just didn't know where he had gone. While the group was still discussing their next plan, Do Hao noticed that the plane's crash seemed more complicated than it appeared. It looked as if it had been attacked by some kind of creature, causing the fuselage to break apart. Using his instincts as a veteran, Do Hao quickly shouted for everyone to make a run for it. He then went to start the plane. At this moment, a massive creature suddenly burst out of the snow. Shaw's friend Do Hao tragically lost his life. The snow monster turned and charged at the four of them. In the chaos, Kenta fired a signal flare. This successfully diverted the snow monster's attention. The group took the opportunity to hide in an ice cave. Meanwhile, at the Monarch Organization's Outpost 47 in Utah. This facility was responsible for detecting and collecting all information regarding monster movements. A woman named Ince was stationed here. She discovered an old instrument making constant noise. After connecting the outdated device to a computer, she detected abnormal radiation levels and immediately reported to the Monarch headquarters. Ince informed the higher-ups that she had detected gamma rays at 30 Hz level. Moreover, the radiation levels were continuously skyrocketing. She concluded that a beast comparable to Godzilla was about to resurrect. Such an abnormal surge only appeared in extraterrestrial anomalies. The last time this occurred on Earth was on the eve of Godzilla's landing in San Francisco. However, due to the old equipment, it was unable to determine the resurrection location of this Titan beast. Within the Monarch Organization, there was heated discussion on how to deal with the impending resurrection of the Titan beast. They were worried that this creature would destroy the human world as soon as it appeared, just like Godzilla. To prevent a repeat of the San Francisco Bridge incident, the organization decisively dispatched an elite team to oversee the situation on site. To evade the snow monster, Kate and the others climbed to the mountain peak. Here, they discovered a strange phenomenon not far away. This was the location where the Monarch Organization had detected radiation. Kate wanted to investigate, but Kenta refused. He claimed he had just discovered a campsite while climbing. To avoid missing any clues about her father, he decided to split up and search separately. Before leaving, Shaw reminded Kenta that whoever encountered a fellow human first should seek help from them, then they should quickly regroup with the others, because they were already lost. It would be difficult to leave the snowy mountain without outside assistance. Kenta thought he could find the campsite using his own willpower. However, he soon realized he was overly naive. He was cold, hungry, and exhausted. A few hours later, he collapsed in the snow, unable to get back up. Kate and her group were also in a difficult situation. As they walked, they found themselves back where they had been attacked by the snow monster, completely lost. Shaw explained that this might be related to the monster's alteration of the magnetic field. In reality, it was the radiation affecting their thoughts, causing confusion. But there was no time to verify now. Nisa was attacked by the cold and her body was freezing. If she didn't warm up, her life would be in danger. Shaw wanted to leave her behind, but Kate firmly disagreed. She worried about Nisa and also about Kenta. At this moment, Kenta had begun to experience hallucinations. He saw Nisa. Images from his past flashed through his mind. So, Kate and the others had to return to the tent, left by her father once again. They lit a fire to warm Nisa up. Just as the three thought they could catch their breath, a loud noise came from nearby. Shaw sensed that something was wrong. He hurriedly pulled Kate and Nisa out of the tent. They had just run a short distance when the snow monster destroyed the camp. And Kenta, who was trapped in a hallucination, saw her father and followed his voice into the vast white snow. He arrived at a campsite and found that the owner seemed to have left for a long time, but he could confirm that his father had stayed here. Fortunately, Kenta found an abandoned satellite phone. He then tried to call for rescue. Meanwhile, from the snow monster's act of swallowing the flames, Shaw deduced that it extremely disliked heat sources, so he decided to ignite Dohau's body to attract the snow monster. At this moment, a helicopter flew in. The snow monster was attracted by the heat emitted by the propeller. Once the plane landed, it would be torn to shreds by the snow monster. Shaw decisively ignited the explosives to attract the snow monster. Kate and the others seized the opportunity to rush toward the helicopter. The snow monster launched a ground shield attack again. Fortunately, the helicopter landed, and Kenta shouted for everyone to board quickly. After boarding the helicopter, Shaw was shocked to see colorful rays appearing in the huge canyon not far away. Beneath the dazzling exterior seemed to lie great danger. With no time to think, they could only return to the city for now. However, what they didn't expect was that after the helicopter landed, the people from the Monarch Organization had been waiting for them for quite some time. They were taken to the Monarch Command Center in Alaska. The most troublesome person for organizational executive Daisy is Shaw, who was in his 90s. After showing Shaw a video of Professor Randa, they asked Shaw what Hunter's child was planning. Daisy suspected that Shaw was hiding other intentions. After all, Hunter had always concealed his work from the organization. Kate and the others were sent to the airport. Tim provided them with new passports and some money to return to Tokyo. He believed that their escape from the monster this time was lucky. If they continued to investigate, they wouldn't be so fortunate. Nisa originally intended to return to Tokyo. However, after being persuaded by the siblings, she decided to go to San Francisco. As soon as they got off the plane, someone sent by Kate's mother came to pick them up. At this time, San Francisco had not yet recovered from the battle with Godzilla. People were living in makeshift shelters. Kate's mother's job was to collect people's personal belongings from the ruins of the battle. During their conversation, her mother candidly admitted that Kate's father had hardly lived with them. This led to doubts about him. That's why she sent Kate to check out the house in Japan. Her mother was worried about Kate and wanted to give her a reason to keep living. Kate was very angry at how her mother treated her. Then she picked up her father's keys and prepared to go to his office in San Francisco to see if her father had left any clues. Her mother warned her not to enter the military's restricted red zone. There, every day, looters were being captured. Rebels would be shot. In the end, Kate managed to persuade her mother to use her work to take the three of them to the military's restricted city center. She warned them that they had to leave early the next morning. Meanwhile, at the Monarch Command Center, Daisy continued to interrogate Shaw. She truly couldn't understand why Shaw had suddenly broken the silence. He had escaped from the nursing home. Shaw bluntly stated that the world was in chaos, and he needed to take action. Daisy believed that the Monarch organization had the smartest team in the world. They didn't need an old man like him to worry about it. Shaw scoffed. He sarcastically pointed out that the organization had spent 60 years preparing for the Godzilla battle. Did they just intend to watch the monsters fight each other? What would happen if Godzilla were defeated? He seriously pointed out that the Monarch organization's methods were flawed, and they had been wrong for a long time. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, Kate and the others looked at the ruins before them. Kate's thoughts drifted back to 2 days before the Godzilla incident. At that time, San Francisco was peaceful. People were unaware that disaster was approaching, and school was going on as usual. It wasn't until the principal checked the class situation that Kate realized something was wrong that day. A few hours before Godzilla's appearance, the school began organizing an evacuation. Before long, Godzilla landed in San Francisco. Kate witnessed the terror of Godzilla and watched helplessly as students fell from the bridge. Her heart was filled with guilt. After calming herself down, the group continued to search for her father's office location. Unexpectedly, they were discovered by the military along the way. They evaded their pursuers and reached a tall building. Her father's office was on the top floor. They sneaked in and found the office in disarray. After searching for a long time, they found no information regarding the Monarch project. Kate saw a blueprint on the wall. She originally thought her father's work was related to satellites, because satellite orbits are sinusoidal. Now, she thought these arcs resembled something else. It seemed like a world map that hid continents. As dawn broke, Kenta asked the two to hang the blueprint on the wall. Nisa was puzzled. Kenta explained that his first artwork was about projecting images. It demonstrated how to overlay one image onto another to reveal something new. He poked holes in the white paper with the map drawn in his father's notebook. Under the sunlight, the bright spots converged on 3 areas of the map. These were San Francisco, Alaska, and Africa. Kate surmised that this might be her father's itinerary. If her father was still alive, his next destination would be Africa. The group hurried back to meet up with her mother. Kate revealed the truth about her father to her mother. She was convinced that her father didn't die in Alaska. She was determined to find her father. However, no one expected that at this moment. Nisa hid aside and dialed a mysterious phone number. A storm was about to arrive once again. During his transport, Sulin rescued Shaw. She believed that Shaw held secrets that even the Monarch organization was unaware of. Shaw stated that he didn't know more than the scientists within the organization. He only possessed the truth. He had opportunities in the past but failed to act, and now he wanted to make amends. Sulin asked him why he didn't inform the Monarch organization to get help. Shaw replied that over the years, he had shared everything with the organization, but was deemed a madman. Now, the Monarch organization was no longer what it once was. Anyone who disagreed was considered insane. Sulin confessed that her sister was killed by the Titan Jinjira in Japan. She joined the Monarch organization, hoping to prevent such tragedies from happening again. There were many others like her within the organization, who were waiting for someone to guide them. She believed that person was Shaw. Then the two went to Kate's house. They claimed that soon, a disaster 100 times worse than the San Francisco incident would occur. Shaw believed that Kate's father, Hunter, wanted to prevent the disaster. With this in mind, he could find Hunter. Then the group headed to the Algerian desert in Africa. This was the location found from Kate's father's office. After arriving near the coordinates left by her father, Kate discovered that members of the Monarch organization were already there. Due to her father's connection, they were extremely distrustful of the organization. Soon, they arrived at a valley. Kenta spotted his father's figure through the binoculars. Kate excitedly waved and shouted at her father. However, Shaw noticed that Hunter's waving seemed wrong. It seemed like he was urging them to leave quickly. Just as the group was about to escape, a helicopter appeared in the sky. Tim found this place, using the map on the wall of Hunter's office. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and the mountains began to crumble. The group tumbled down the slope. Kenta helped Kate dodge a rolling SUV. A huge breathing sound came from behind them. The startled Godzilla directly knocked Tim's helicopter away, but after glancing at the group, it turned and walked away. This left the group stunned in place. Then Shaw invited Kate and the others to follow him, and then they would know all the truth. However, Kate and the others declined his invitation. For them, finding her father was the most important thing. Thus, this makeshift team parted ways. Shaw, who left, led the Emperor's rebel team to prepare for the destruction of the canyon with a surge in radiation, to welcome the Titan beast. Meanwhile, at the Monarch Organization's Outpost 47, radiation surges were detected in the rift in Alaska. They quickly pinpointed the exact location. The Monarch Organization secretly established Outpost 88 near the rift to investigate the cause of the unknown isotopes spiking. This situation had already occurred when Godzilla attacked San Francisco. It was highly likely that another highly aggressive Titan beast was about to awaken in the rift. This would bring unimaginable disaster. However, at this time, the Monarch Organization was merely monitoring the situation and had not taken any countermeasures. Conversely, some members within the organization wanted to eliminate the monsters to prevent them from wreaking havoc on humanity again. Now, this group, led by the elderly Shaw, was directly storming Outpost 88, preparing to take control there and then battle the monsters in the rift. Shaw informed everyone that they would take over here. Soon, the entire base would be locked down. Before the lockdown, Shaw gave the staff two choices. One was to leave, and the other was to stay and fight alongside them. Just as Shaw was speaking, Ince, returning from the restroom, witnessed everything. Realizing that something serious was happening, she quickly escaped outside and reported the situation to headquarters. Nearby the helicopter that crashed due to Godzilla awakening, Tim had miraculously survived. He walked to a nearby airport and encountered Kate. Kate was furious to see him. It turned out that not long ago, Nisa had been kidnapped by two men in black in the restroom. When Kate found her, only her clothes were left behind. Kate mistakenly thought that Nisa had been taken by the Monarch Organization. Seeing Tim, who had escaped, she confronted him angrily. After calming down, Tim explained that there were already conflicts within the Monarch Organization. Some were dedicated to studying the monsters, while others aimed to eliminate them directly. Kate and Kenta's grandparents and father belonged to the first group. Kate suddenly asked why, if it was just research. Her father had activated some machine to awaken Godzilla. Tim was also puzzled, but he knew that Hunter was determined to prevent another Godzilla incident. He would never awaken Godzilla without a reason. If such a situation truly arises, there is only one possibility. That is, an even greater disaster is about to occur. Tim hoped that the two would take him along when they searched for Hunter. However, Kate insisted on finding Nisa first. So, Tim hurriedly inquired with headquarters. Unexpectedly, Nisa wasn't kidnapped by the Monarch Organization. Tim had to request headquarters to help find Nisa. Then he reported Kate's father's situation to his superiors. He seriously suspected that Kate's father must have discovered something more terrifying than Godzilla's landing. That was why he kept awakening the sleeping Godzilla. After hanging up the phone, Tim informed the two of the situation. Then he revealed the information the Monarch Organization had gathered about Nisa. It turned out that Nisa's real name was Kira. She had worked at a tech company called Walter. Later, she was forced to go into hiding. After discovering company secrets, Tim suspected that this company had kidnapped Nisa. Sure enough, Nisa was currently at Walter Technologies. It turned out that Nisa discovered the company was conducting research on animals, which caused a multi-billion-dollar project to be shelved. This was why she had to run away. Now, the leadership at Walter had set their sights on the Titan beast Godzilla. They wanted to explore what kind of nervous system could drive such a gigantic monster. As Kate's partner, and having had contact with people from the Monarch Organization, the leadership wanted Nisa to continue following Kate and the others, and notify them after finding the monster. Only in this way Would the boss at Walter overlook Nisa's actions? To secure Nisa's freedom, the Monarch Organization reached an agreement with Walter Technologies. Thus, Nisa returned to the trio. Shaw and his team arrived near the rift in Alaska. With a large amount of weapons and ammunition, he ordered everyone to plant explosives all around. As the massive explosion erupted, the blast drew out the frost monsters from beneath the ice. Suddenly, a dazzling white light spread out. When everything settled down, the gamma rays also vanished. Tim brought Kate and the others to the Monarch Organization headquarters. He introduced the relationship between their family and the Monarch Organization. Since Kate's grandmother Keiko passed away, the remaining two had delved deeper into theories of teleportation and wormholes. This was the legacy they left behind. The Monarch Organization has outposts around the world. Recently, the outposts detected gamma rays before the San Francisco incident erupted. These involved locations such as Alaska and Africa. These were places where Kate's father Hunter had been. Tim was unsure whether Hunter was predicting the monsters' route or tracking them. Shaw and his subordinates caused a massive explosion in Alaska. Afterward, the gamma rays disappeared. However, gamma ray levels in other areas increased as a result. Everyone speculated that Shaw might be creating another explosion, which would cause gamma ray levels in other places to exceed those of the San Francisco incident, leading to a repeat of the San Francisco Monster Wars. Shaw had been following the route outlined by Hunter. Now, the three had parted ways with Shaw. The map was also taken by Shaw. As the group speculated about Shaw's destination, he and his men had already arrived at an abandoned nuclear power plant in Kazakhstan. It was there that Kate's grandmother Keiko was dragged into the abyss by a monster. At the Monarch Organization headquarters, Kate and the others found her grandmother's accident report. While searching for clues, the accident site was marked on Hunter's map and showed a spike in gamma ray data. Kate remembered that before parting ways with Shaw had hoped they would complete the mission together. Therefore, Kazakhstan was likely Shaw's next target. Tim suggested they go together, and soon the group arrived in Kazakhstan. They found signs of explosion on the outer wall of the abandoned nuclear power plant. Tim remarked that this place was very strange. According to logic, no one could inhabit the area for 1,000 years after a nuclear leak. Yet now, it seemed that the radiation had been absorbed by something. While exploring, Tim was startled by something he stepped on. Kate checked and found it was an insect's exoskeleton. There were many on the surrounding walls as well. These were the beetles that had previously attacked Keiko. The shedding meant that the insect's exoskeleton couldn't adapt to its growth. They had undergone new changes. The group followed the corridor to the vicinity of the reactor. They discovered a bottomless pit. Tim believed Shaw's intention was to destroy this passage. At this moment, Sulin and her team surrounded them. Shaw stepped forward and called Kate into a separate room. He confessed the truth about destroying the pit. It turned out that when the Monarch Organization transferred the documents back then, Keiko and Professor Randa concealed some discoveries. These pits led directly to the Earth's interior. Inside was a world coexisting with the surface. The three of them had ventured inside. Godzilla wasn't a destructive monster but a guardian of order. Its purpose was to keep the monsters in the Earth's core and prevent them from stepping onto the human surface. Shaw's intention to blow up the passage was to seal off the route to the underworld. Kate mentioned that after blowing up the passage, gamma radiation levels in other passages would rise. Shaw believed this was a fabricated illusion by the Monarch Organization. He didn't want to stand idly by like the Monarch Organization did during the San Francisco incident, so he ordered the detonation of the nearby explosives. However, as everyone was evacuating, an accident occurred. Just like the last time they destroyed the rift, the frost monsters launched an attack against them. This time, the anteater monsters in the passage also attacked them. This passage also had its own guardian monsters. As the ground shook violently, Nisa slipped and fell into the bottomless pit. Kate wanted to rush forward to save her, but a toothy monster blocked her path. Fortunately, debris from the ceiling crushed the monster into the pit. Before Kate could recover, her body also slid toward the pit. Shaw grabbed her hand but was too late. The two fell into the pit hand in hand. As the bomb exploded, the pit was blocked. Shaw woke up to find himself in a vibrant, colorful forest. He wasn't surprised and quickly got to his feet. He searched for the others in the foggy woods. Not far away, Nisa woke up. She noticed colorful lightning striking toward her feet. Fortunately, Shaw saved her just in time. He then led Nisa out of the lightning zone. Shaw explained that this was the electromagnetic field left after the rifts between the two worlds closed. It was very dangerous. As Shaw searched for Kate, he recounted his experience of returning from the underworld to Nisa. When he woke up back then, he found himself locked in a laboratory. The people he interacted with were all wearing radiation suits. Later, his radiation subsided, and he regained consciousness. He requested to see Dr. Randa but was unable to do so. Shaw had to forcibly kidnap a nurse as leverage. But a man informed him that Randa had already died. And this was the recovery center for the Monarch project. The man referred to Shaw as uncle and pulled out a knife. It turned out he was Keiko's son Hunter. 20 years had passed since Shaw entered the underworld. Accepting reality, Shaw recounted their encounters. After the cockpit lost control, they crashed to flat ground. One companion died on the spot. The remaining 3 tried to contact the control center, while scouting the surrounding environment. Then disaster struck. One companion was eaten by a giant unknown creature. Another was struck by lightning shooting up from the ground. Shaw was also pulled into a portal opened by a flying monster. When he regained consciousness, he found himself back on the Earth's surface. Hunter decided to transfer Shaw to a sanatorium for observation and research. Hunter believed that for 300,000 years, humans and monsters had coexisted peacefully. It was the arrival of Shaw and others that disrupted this balance. Thus, Shaw spent decades in the sanatorium, until one day, he saw Godzilla battling Titan beasts in Hawaii on television. Meanwhile, the Monarch Organization headquarters detected an anomaly. After Shaw detonated the Rift outpost, the gamma ray levels in the other 12 passages increased. Only one passage maintained stable radiation levels. It seemed that someone was sending a signal. In the underworld, Kate just woke up and heard a roar. A tusked wild boar monster was approaching her. Kate held her breath in fear, trying to deceive the creature. Just as she sighed in relief, the wild boar monster turned back. Kate wanted to run, but it was too late. At this moment, an arrow shot into the monster's neck. To her surprise, it was her grandmother Keiko, who had perished 60 years ago. Keiko was overjoyed to hear that Shaw had also arrived. She thought they were a rescue team, responding to the signal she sent out. So she led Kate in a specific direction. Along the way, Keiko noticed something unusual in Kate's expression, and realized that Kate wasn't a rescue sent by the Monarch Organization. At this moment, Nisa ran out from the woods. Seeing that Keiko looked unchanged, Shaw hid behind a tree, unwilling to reveal himself. Shaw asked Keiko how long she had been there. It turned out that in Keiko's perception, she had only fallen into this strange world 57 days ago. Keiko had always believed she was still living in 1959. After Shaw explained, Keiko finally understood that this was due to a space-time distortion effect. When she learned that Professor Randa had already passed away, Keiko was heartbroken. After Kate recognized her grandmother, Keiko led them to a valley. They found the gamma simulation projector outside the cockpit, where Shaw had entered before, and modified the launch tube to emit a directed gamma ray pulse signal. This was the source of the signal received by the Monarch Organization. Shaw recounted the changes in the outside world to Keiko, leaving her deeply moved. To return to the surface world, the 4 of them carried the gamma simulation projector toward the spot where Shaw had landed. There was the remains of the cockpit. Just as everyone was preparing to leave, Keiko expressed her desire to stay behind. She believed that her partner Randa had passed away. Her son had grown up in her absence. She didn't want to disrupt his life by suddenly appearing. No matter how the outside world had changed, it was no longer her world. But Kate didn't want to lose her grandmother again. After much persuasion, she finally convinced Keiko. The group entered the cockpit and activated the gamma simulation projector. Shaw needed to use it to lure a monster. The rift opened by the monster would be their way back. Soon, a pterosaur monster appeared and began attacking the cockpit. It broke the line connecting to the simulator. Shaw ran out to risk repairing it, but he was blocked by the pterosaur monster from escaping. At this moment, a massive figure appeared in the light, drawing the pterosaur monster away. The king of monsters Godzilla made his entrance. Godzilla had barely taken a few steps before the pterosaur monster ambushed him. It bit into his neck. Godzilla unleashed an atomic breath, severely injuring it. Then he ripped it in half with his bare hands and threw it into the rift. The rift emitted a powerful suction that pulled the cockpit inside. Shaw didn't have time to return and was left in this world. The group passed through the passage and returned to the human world. At the landing point, a large crowd gathered to welcome them. Kate saw her father. Keiko embraced her son Hunter. Just when they thought everything was over, Nisa's former boss suddenly appeared, claiming to be the true financier of the mission. Tim and Hunter had both left the Monarch organization and become her subordinates. Kenta explained that everything had changed over the past 2 years. Now, this place was the Apex research station on Skull Island. At this moment, alarms sounded outside the base. Tim immediately called for everyone to evacuate urgently. A massive noise came from the distance. It turned out that over the past 2 years, the number of monsters in the city had increased. Not only was there Godzilla, who could unleash atomic breath, but also King Kong, who had come out of Skull Island. And the movie ends here. Overall, the plot of the entire series flows quite smoothly. It is an exciting sci-fi adventure series. Its dual narrative structure is clever, interweaving past and present stories to add depth. The special effects are well made, and the monster designs are unique, with strong visual impact. Each episode features new monsters, delighting the audience. I highly recommend it to viewers who enjoy sci-fi adventure genres. Interested friends can check out the original film, Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. If you enjoy my channel, please click to subscribe to my channel.